Well, hey there, bitches. We're doing a late, Kyle and Corin here. We're doing a late podcast.
Yeah, my bad.
No,
I had to
it's
go
good,
skiing,
man.
bro.
Yeah, you went skiing. He was just telling me off air that skiing's like interesting.
The worst fucking sport. And first off, my mic is good today for that fucking one commenter out there. People act like if you make a mistake with some shit that like they perceive it as like you did it like for
I like how they blamed you.
Yeah,
but I obviously control the mics.
It's just like even in real life, like when you do something by mistake, like people like their first reaction is like they get as tight as they would get if you did it on purpose.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Whereas your first reaction should be like, maybe he made a mistake. Let me be calm and find out what's happening.
For people that don't know what we're talking about, he's talking about a comment that he saw in 2 weeks ago at the podcast. Somebody was like, "Corin, watch your fucking mic, bro. It's loud."
Your fucking mic
Meanwhile,
is loud.
it was totally my fault because I set up the sound recorder and stuff. But it was after like 6 minutes, I fixed it and made it normal again. But speaking of that, like today, sometimes whenever anybody posts on my Facebook, I get like a message in my email. I gotta disable that because all day it's like message.
You get like thousands of fucking messages.
Yeah, I know. I just kind of hit delete nonstop. So, but I always see like the first 4 words or some shit of the thing people send me in the message without even opening it.
Yeah.
And the one today was like, "Man, I really liked your show. I really respect you, but..." And then I was like...
Oh, is that where it stopped?
Yeah. I was like, the chances of me going to my Facebook and reading this are literally 0%. Because I get that all the time. Like, everybody's got some issue. Like, everybody's like, "Man, you're great on like 90% of the issues. But then that one thing that I disagree with you on, fuck you for that." What do you want me to do? What do you want me to just copy and paste everything in your brain? And all my thoughts have to be your thoughts?
What if you went to it, though, and it was just like, "But I'm fucking like 3 girls like right now."
And they want to
They all want to suck you off. And just if you just came over here right now, dude, and you just never looked at that message.
Oh, that'd be disastrous.
That would be so bad. That makes you want to maybe look at that message now.
Yeah, except, no, I have gotten like weird, creepy, like I've gotten messages from like, "Hey, do you meet fans?"
Oh.
And I'm like...
Not the ones that are asking me that question.
First of all, if you're a male, no. Second of all, if you're a female, probably no.
Yeah, it depends on your photo. And then even then, you can't trust anybody nowadays.
I'm not like popular enough to do like fan meetups and shit.
No, you probably get a good turnout. Like a Barnes and Noble or some
8
shit.
people?
Yeah.
"Hey man, love your show." Like the numbers look good on YouTube, but you gotta remember, like all those people, that's America, Australia, the UK. So like if you go to each state, like do the math or whatever. Like in Nebraska, I have 3 fans. Like that's really what it comes down to.
That's true.
It's still interesting though. But anyway, back to skiing. So I've never been skiing before.
Yeah. Skiing is like
too much work for not that much fun.
Too much work. You know, it's just like if you want to go see just like rich white people walking around. I saw like 3 black.
Go to
my
the
girlfriend's half
Republican
black.
National Convention and a ski lodge.
Yeah, that's true. Those 2 places, I saw like 3 black people, and it was like, I got nothing against black people, but like in a ski lodge, it was weird to see a black person. You don't see.
I
like
me and you actually have already established this is the Kyle and Corin rule. If you go somewhere and there's no black people, you shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
Remember when we were driving, me and Corin went, I had this weird family reunion thing in like North Carolina. Was it North or South Carolina?
I think it was North.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, me and Corin went. I made him come with me because I didn't want to go by myself. And he was nice enough to come with me.
We
drove, yeah. And like we hit like Virginia, was it? And we were in some place where we needed gas. I didn't have a choice. Yeah. I needed gas. And we pull in there, and like a black dude pulls up next to us. I'm like, "Oh, thank God."
Mm-hmm.
Because whenever you get into like super red state territory and it's only white people around, it's like, oh no, this place has like a history of lynchings and like all these guys are so backwards. And that's totally stereotyping, and I totally do it, and I shouldn't do it.
No, but which is crazy.
I feel less comfy. I do feel less comfy in places where it's all white people.
Yeah.
And remember, the scariest part, remember in that trip, because we went by the GPS.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so bad with any directions in any way that like the GPS might as well be a holy book that I follow no matter where I go, right? Like I always follow. It takes me anywhere. I'm like, I gotta go. Like I
trust it.
The same circle 8 times. I gotta do it again. The GPS says I'm doing it because I suck with directions. So this thing takes us what's supposed to be a quicker way other than shooting down I-95. And there was all like back roads and fucking. And next thing we know, like we got like a quarter of a tank left. We still got like 2 hours left in the trip, and we're on some fucking side back road and probably one of the Carolinas, and we're like, what the fuck? Not a street light in sight, not a person in sight. Every once in a while, you
like
pass
a Baptist church or something.
You pass a Baptist church, right?
Or a Jesus sign, just like a big sign that said Jesus on it.
And me and you were like, if we break down here,
it's a wrap.
Like, we're just Fuckington. We're done.
Yeah.
Like what? Like, and who are you gonna call? There's nobody in. Like, it's different if you're in Miami or if you're in New York or L.A. and your car, you run out of gas or something. Like, somebody's there because the place is alive. Like, there's people doing stuff 24/7.
Yeah.
But it was like, no, everything is closed at like 7 o'clock at night, and then shit does not open until 8:30 the next morning or 8 the next morning.
If someone is managed, like if someone does manage to stop, like you're shitting your pants because this dude is like out at 3 a.m.
That's right.
And just like has a mullet, has one of those mullets where the hair's on the side but no hair up top.
He did a shitload of meth.
Did a shit like God, has no teeth, but usually he'll be a nice ass guy and help you.
Or he'll try to ass fuck you.
I mean, like you might have to do that if you get the ride home.
So yeah.
So back to skiing. Skiing is just like is just miserable beyond belief because you have to do so much work to actually do the activity you want to do.
When there's like you have to do a lot of work and there's a little bit of payoff.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I need the whole thing to be pure payoff. Like, what do you mean?
Like we go play ball all the time,
and it's
just
fun
like
because you just play basketball.
It's like, yo, like summertime, you want to play ball? Yeah,
pick
me up in 20 minutes. I just got to get my sneakers out the trunk.
That's right.
If I were to be like, if it was wintertime and I'm just like, yo, and I called you up randomly, I'm like, yo, you want to go skiing? And if it was the same thing as basketball, this is what you'd be like. Yeah, I'd have to go get my skis from the basement, dust them off. Those shits are heavy as fuck, so I'm going to have to carry them up the stairs. I got to get my ski boots, which are heavy as shit.
We'd have to drive somewhere far away from here.
We'd have to drive somewhere mad far away.
We have to go up a fucking ski, go on the, whatever it's called, the
you
machine
go down
that
a
takes
hill
you
for
up.
like 3 minutes to wait online for 20 minutes.
Exactly. There, you put it better than I ever could. Yeah, you like have to wait on the line, go up the thing, and it's fucking cold out. First of all, are there people that really prefer the cold to the heat? Like, those people exist? I mean, obviously they exist because people live in Canada, people live in Alaska, people live in all these there are people who live in the fucking Siberian tundra in Russia.
Yeah.
But like, the thought that there are people who would go, I prefer 3 degrees to 70 on a beach. It's like, what?
Yeah, I don't get it. I was just in Chicago and like I got off the plane and legit was like negative, like whatever, 6 degrees.
Oh.
And I was just like,
during the cold snap too. Like, it was even cold here when you were there, and there was way colder.
And I was just like thinking like why do people do this to themselves?
It's
like,
not human.
Come back in the summertime or whatever. Like, but just everyone should just have like a house in Florida or San Diego for the wintertime in cold places, and then just like go back to the places in the nice weather.
Yeah,
it's just too cold to function. Like, your brain can't function in cold weather.
Only like 3 people in the country though have enough money to do
that.
No. But that would be awesome.
But I just thought, like, why doesn't everyone live in San Diego where it's like beautiful weather?
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people who we know. They always tell me like when I talk about the weather here, they're like, no, I really like the change of seasons. How many times have you heard that?
Yeah.
I like the change of seasons. I like when it's
crock of shit.
Exactly. I'm like, no. Sometimes it's fucking that. What that means is sometimes it's fucking terrible and gross out, and sometimes it's really nice out. Why not just have it nice out all the time? And then I've heard this bullshit line too. Although people could tell me if this is true if they live in these places. They say, oh, if there is no change of season, you feel like time goes way too quickly. Like, you feel like the year ends quicker because it was nothing but 70-degree days.
No.
But that's my response. My response is like, what the fuck? If it's nice out, it's nice out. There's no like...
Yeah. Like,
you're not going to... Your mind's not going to go, let's pretend like it's gross out and like...
There's a reason why when people get sick and shit like that, they're like, go to a warm weather place because you'll just like... feel
and
healthier.
When people retire,
they're
like, let's go to somewhere in Florida where it's like a tropical climate. Maybe it's a little too hot there, but like San Diego's a good example. San Francisco's a good example of like nice weather places.
But you just function better in like nicer weather.
I know I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're happy when you wake up. You're like, oh, the sun's shining. It's beautiful outside.
You're motivated.
Oh, absolutely.
What the fuck's gonna motivate you in Chicago, negative 6 degrees weather, to wake up and just be like, I'm fucking giddy today. I'm getting my day started. Like, I wouldn't want to step outside.
How good does your bed feel in the morning when it's freezing outside and like, you got to wake up? First of all, it's whenever anybody ever has to get up and go somewhere, it's at that moment that they're like, no, this bed is better than sex.
Yeah.
Like, this bed is the best thing that's ever happened ever. But if it's the weekend and you can sleep in, And you wake up at a normal time and you're like, why can't I go back to sleep?
Yep. Everyone always said it's like
weird. It's like our minds are fucking constantly playing these psychological tricks on us.
Yeah.
Like they're constantly doing like I'm gonna flip it on you. And you're like, what the fuck you? Just keep it the way it's supposed to be.
It's like Saturday I'm sleeping into Sunday. You wake up at like crack of dawn and you're just like, fuck man, I just want to be sleeping. Monday morning, like you just want to, all you want to do is lay in bed like the whole fucking, it's crazy. You're right.
So there's a bunch of stuff I wanted to talk about today. Corin's been super busy too. Yesterday he did a CrossFit competition.
Yeah, man.
That's beast. I give you mad respect for doing that.
I don't
it's probably
know if anyone
a lot of
out
fun
there does CrossFit, but yeah, I enjoy it a lot.
Yeah. I'm very much in favor of it, even though I don't have time to do it.
And
I would do it if I had time, for sure.
What's your take on competition? You like competition?
Of course.
Yeah. Competition, it just brings the best out, and you're like, it's just awesome. Like,
it's escalating yourself to a higher level, and like, you know what it is? Like, it's easy to be on the sidelines because I've done it. I've sat on the sidelines when people are doing shit, and I'll be the guy who's like, "Fuck you for doing shit." Mm-hmm. And like, it's true that you could look at it and be like, well, look at you guys engaging in the rat race of life, losers, right? Like, you could easily come up with arguments as to why competition is bullshit and why it's like, fuck you for doing it. But then when you participate in it, you're like, no, this shit is awesome.
Yeah.
Especially when you do it and you get good at something, you're like, oh no, I want to do this every day ever. Mm-hmm. You know?
Well, I got to a point yesterday where it was like, because it was a competition with everyone in our gym. So I said to my, like, it was getting like pretty heated. So I said to my brother, I was like, yo, it's getting a little weird. Like people like, you know, or like they'd finish a workout and then like they'd ask their judge like, oh, is like, this is what I saw. Like, oh, is that other person done yet? You know, like, so it was getting real competitive to a point where like even friends were crossing the line, like seeing if someone else finished before them or not.
But afterwards, are they good? Like,
yeah, afterwards they were all good.
See, that's awesome,
which made it real. Was like,
because that's like, you know, like
Kobe and LeBron or someone like going at each other,
right?
Or,
I like those relationships. That's like, because everybody knows me. Like in person, I'm just like I am on the show. Like sometimes we'll debate, we'll argue and stuff. Mm-hmm. And you and Henry have gone back and forth and stuff. But like, there's never any love lost. You know, like have you ever been around people who they mistake any like debate for like argument, like it's personal? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's never personal. Like if we're talking policy and stuff, and we're going at it and we're debating about random shit. Mm-hmm. Like, that's never personal.
Yeah.
Like, I've gotten in like, Will and Brian, too. We've debated stuff and gotten into, like, heated arguments. But it's like,
there's no
the second
love
you're
lost,
done with it, it's just like, you want to grab a sandwich? Yep. Grab a sandwich.
Yeah, 100%.
Because it's just talking, you know? And it's the same thing with certain competitions. Like, CrossFit's probably a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
And all that stuff.
Well, that's what I mean. I don't know if it works like that in politics. Because, I mean, usually when you have a debate with someone who's total opposite of you.
Well, I mean, I'm talking about...
no, I know friendship.
The people who I would talk to, the people who I would debate with. I'm not saying that like Mitt Romney and Obama were like, giving each other hand jobs afterwards. They were probably like, fuck this robotic motherfucker, Thurston Howell III.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. When sometimes it doesn't work because you just don't even listen to what someone else is saying.
I'm not talking like national scene. Mm-hmm. Good point. I should have clarified on that anyway. But so you did CrossFit yesterday. You went skiing today. You fucking tired as a motherfucker. Thanks for doing this anyway, though. Man.
Of course.
We didn't give them we didn't give everybody a podcast last week, so they're probably
fuck them.
No, we love you. Kisses. So first of all, I wanted to tell you the story of I never got around to this. I was going to do this a few podcasts ago, but the wedding and the bachelor party, Will's wedding and bachelor party.
Oh, okay.
I was going to tell you because there's some interesting parts of it, and it speaks funny of me.
This is different than the Vegas trip, right? Because we
different than the Vegas trip. Vegas trip was the graduation present that we got from all of our parents.
Yeah, I want to hear then.
So I'll start with the wedding, actually. So at the wedding was fun, right? I mean, the only thing
Will with the blonde hair, right?
Right.
Yeah, I just saw him.
So the wedding was fun. The only thing that was a little annoying about it is that it was far away. Mm-hmm. It was at Villanova. This was like I don't know how long the drive was, 3 hours or so from where I am. And so me and my other friend Brian were both co-best men, and we were both giving speeches. So nothing else in the night was really all that noteworthy. But when me and Brian gave the speeches, something happened that I was so fucking embarrassed over, man.
Really?
Oh, you have no idea how embarrassed I was.
I feel like you'd never give a fuck about anything.
That's true. And I am like public speaking is like one of the few things where I feel like I'm fine.
Yeah.
I could do it, no problem. But So I kind of prepared for the speech the same way I prepare for the show in a way. Like the way I prepare for the show, I always, whenever people ask me, I always say to them, I'm 40% scripted. So what that means is like I'll read the news articles and stuff, and like I'll give myself the first few lines of the story, and then I just put like bullet points.
Yeah.
Like 4 or 5 bullet points with the facts of the story that I need, and I could just riff based off that. So like 40% scripted. I did the same thing with the speech, put some bullets and stuff, and was like, this is what I'm going to talk about. And I knew going into it that like historically there have been -6 best man speeches that have ever been interesting. Nobody's ever done a best, like when was the last time any of you were at a wedding and you're sitting there having a conversation at your table and one person goes, I can't wait for that best man speech.
Yeah.
People are like, fuck this part. Why can we skip this part? Like this is
because they usually don't know the guy who's giving the speech.
They don't know the guy who's talking. The person who's usually talking is
telling just
horrendous at talking.
Yeah,
like that's the thing. I mean, I know I'm being kind of a dick here, but I mean, very few people are good at talking like, in terms of publicly. I mean, you get somebody one-on-one and they'll say whatever.
Yeah,
but publicly, like I was watching something on C-SPAN and it was like everybody who called in. It just took them forever to get their fucking point out, and when they did get their point out, it didn't make sense. And you're like, fuck you, just say it, like spit it out and be straightforward. I know I'm being a dick because
no, you're right on that.
It's one of the few things that like I'm decent at, so like it's almost like I'm looking down at people like fuck you for not being good at it. But it's just I don't know, people for whatever reason, it's I don't know, people get nervous in public or whatever. But so I go up and I give my speech, and I start out good. I know this is corny, but I tried to make it like a little bit funny because
that works.
Because I'm not a comedian, but like every once in a while on the show people say I make people laugh.
It's just natural sometimes with you.
Sometimes, yeah, just because I'm fucking around and like make fart noises or whatever. Like it just kind of happens. But I'm not. I know I'm not. Like that's not the point of my show, and I'm really not. I'm not all that naturally funny. I don't think. So, and it was working. Like my jokes got laughs. And by the way, comedians, man, that's a drug. Because comedians, like that feeling when the whole room, the fucking laughter hits you, you're like, oh, yes. It's like injecting heroin in your veins. Yeah. You're like, oh, laugh more at my jokes.
But it's probably the complete opposite when you're bombing and the room
is
it's
like the scariest shit ever, I'm sure, yeah.
Like you've heard comedians say that all the time. They're like, some of their biggest fears is just bombing in a room and the audience just being like completely silent.
Yeah, that's right. Because I know some of my lines didn't land. And like
you could feel it.
You feel it immediately. But what you have to do, and I know this from the show, thankfully, even though it's a little bit different, but I know that it's like you have to make it seem like you don't give a fuck that they didn't catch on to your vibe.
You got to commit to it.
I got to let them know, like, no, you got to hop on my vibe. Like, I'm going to lead the shit, and you got to hop on my vibe. So anyway, I'm giving the speech. I'm doing I think a decent job. And then I start crying.
Dead ass?
I started crying, dude.
What?
Because me and Will have been friends for a very long time.
Did something trigger the crying, or was it just like everything?
No, it wasn't like random. Like it was in line with the speech, I guess you could say.
So like you were talking about maybe a situation or some shit. Like I'm curious how you started crying. Like
God, I don't know all the details because of course I'd been drinking.
Yeah, that could have contributed to it too. Your emotions,
maybe, but I don't really think so because you'll see when I tell the end of the story, you'll
my bad.
See exactly what was going on in other people's minds. So like I guess it started out like funny. And I kept it funny, and then, I don't know, halfway through or so, it became a little bit more serious in the sense that I talk about what my friendship with him meant, and then at a certain point, I don't know, I said one thing and I started crying, and then, like a soldier, son, I kept going, and I apologized as I was doing it, and I finished, and then Brian gives the speech after me, and I felt bad that I stepped on his speech by doing that, right? But so then he gives his speech. He does a great job too. And then afterwards, I'm so fucking embarrassed. Like that's embarrassing. Like a room full of people, and you're like kind of crying as you're going along, right? Every person came up to me and was like, "That's the best speech I've ever heard in my life. That was amazing."
The shit was it was probably mad real.
And I was like, really? Because the part, I thought the crying was, I thought it was too much.
No, but some people cry and it is too much because that shit is just you could tell they're just crying because it's like a best, what is it, best woman speech?
Best man, best woman, I guess best woman.
Grooms?
No. Bridesmaid.
Bridesmaid. Yeah.
We're so stupid.
There's a whole movie based on that.
The thing where they talking the stuff.
But like everyone knows a bridesmaid's gonna cry. Like usually, like a guy will get up there and try and be gangster. Like if they saw you were crying, like, and you were probably killing it with the speech, they like real recognizes real. That shit was just real. They showed you love on it, and they probably genuinely
and
liked
I have
it.
to everybody who said like great job. Like I really thank them, because if not, like I gotta be honest. Like even like 2 weeks after it happened, like I would be doing something, and I would remember about the speech. I'd be like, fuck, I'm so embarrassed. Like I was still embarrassed. Like it's just embarrassing.
Yeah,
you know. But they kind of lessen that effect.
Are you usually emotional with like when it comes to shit?
That's a good question, man. I don't know. Like, I feel like there are times when I should have cried where I didn't cry, and like
at a movie or something.
No, like I know this is gonna sound. I know it's gonna sound fucked up, but like I don't know what it was, but like at my dad's funeral, I cried a little bit, but I was able. Actually, I'm lying. I cried during his eulogy. I gave a eulogy for him too, and I was crying. Yeah. But I mean, most of the time, I think, other than that, the eulogy, I think most of it I was able to keep it together. And there are times that
like that's a serious.
I mean,
shit.
obviously that's really serious.
I'll
I know.
Take it the opposite way, like on some real shit. I'll watch like Ellen DeGeneres, and so a kid will come out and like do some amazing shit, and I'll like fucking cry. Like
okay, yeah, no,
you know what? I cry a lot.
Okay, now you're getting me to think about.
I'll
it more.
fuck somebody up though. I gotta think.
No, there are times like I think there are. I don't think I'm like a big emotional guy or crier, but there are a few times like. I think there are some points like during a movie where you're supposed to cry where I'll cry. Like it'll be the part of the movie where you're like, I should cry here. And then you do. Like it just happens.
Yeah.
But not like usually, I don't know, not really like romantic comedies. You know what I mean?
What about just like inspirational shit?
Inspirational
like in real
shit, yeah. Like if there's somebody, who like was in an accident and they're an athlete and they fight back.
Yeah,
like when I see that,
I
start to, I get a lump in my throat. I'm like, you're doing it, man. You know?
Because it's like, I start thinking about extra shit too. I'm like, this is like real life shit.
Yeah.
And then like the kid will speak or something. He's just like, I had a coach who told me, boom, 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 boom. And I'm like, fuck, man, that's deep. Like this coach affected this dude's life. Like,
yeah. But although I must be clear, I am no John Boehner. John Boehner's the Speaker of the House. He cries like every 4 seconds.
Really?
Yeah, oh man. He did a 60 Minutes thing. They were talking about like taxes. He's like,
that's a dude who's all like tan and shit, right?
The guy who's like orange.
Oh.
Every day he's like, one day he's like burnt sienna, one day he's orange, one day he's like, I don't know,
do you know,
pewter.
Can I just ask a random question? I was
Yeah.
watching something on one of the news stations, and there was a guy who had like a fucking like black eye and like a tape
Harry
over
Reid.
it. Yes.
Harry Reid.
What's up with that
He
dude?
was exercising and he fucked himself up.
And he still like gave us like a speech that day. He was supposed to give a speech or something.
I don't know the details of it. It was pretty serious. Like he fractured like a fucking rib or some shit, and
His whole face
eye.
is fucked up. And I just remember looking at him like he still posted a video the day.
Oh, he
like,
still
where
posted a
something
video?
went on for the Republicans or some shit. And I was just like, this guy looks like a joke.
He's like he's
mad
old.
old.
He's over 70.
Oh,
A lot of people in government are pretty up there in age.
which is it's probably.
By the way,
terrible.
speaking of exercise accidents, I'll get back to the wedding and stuff in a second. Funny
Yeah,
story
sorry.
popped in my head. My dad used to tell me a story about my uncle, so his brother, how this is hilarious. That so my dad used to own a Chevy dealership, and his brother like co-owned it with him because their father owned it and it was handed down to them. And my dad's brother, so my uncle is kind of a little bit of like a slacker kind of guy, you know. But I also kind of liked him because of that. Like he had this demotivational attitude of like I just don't give a shit about anything and I'm cool with it. Like the fact that he was cool with it made me be like, oh, I like you. Because he wasn't like a slacker and like he knew that he should get his shit together. He was a slacker and he embraced it.
That's what's
He's
up.
like, I'm a fucking slacker and I don't give a fuck.
That's what's up.
So yeah, no. So in a way, I always kind of liked him.
Uh-huh.
So one day, so this is, by the way, my dad told me the story. I don't know if it's embellished in any way, shape, or form, but he kind of did the same thing as Harry Reid. Like he was working out at his house and he was high as fuck. And he was riding, he assembled his exercise bike and he was riding it, right? And it broke as he was riding it. The fucking pole for the thing that led to the seat, like the seat fell off and then he fell backwards. His fucking scrotum got caught on the pole.
Oh my!
And it like ripped open.
Fuck!
And he had to go to the hospital and get stitches.
Oh.
Yeah, he had to crawl to the phone to call. Yeah.
That must have been the worst experience at the hospital too, unless he had like a big ass dick.
Oh, can you imagine that happening to you?
Oh, can you imagine that pain?
I might want to kill myself at that moment. Like I might just be like, is like morphine even enough to fucking make you dull the pain of your fucking scrotum being ripped open?
Bad.
Yeah. Anyway, side story. I like how my side stories are more powerful than my regular stories.
Yeah, no, I say one shit and then we tangent off both of us.
All right, so now the bachelor party. That's my wedding story. I'm still embarrassed to this day, even though people said they liked the speech.
So did you see people going up to Brian though and saying like good speech too?
I'm sure they did, but I didn't see it. But I know I know they did because he did give a good speech. He gave a great speech. He obviously kept it together. I wasn't able to keep it together. And he had like a theme to his that he kept coming back to, whereas mine was more like
just bullet points you were hitting.
Yeah, I was spitting facts about like, hey, me and Will met like this, and this is what we used to trampoline wrestle. We both wanted to be in the WWF when we were kids, and we still want to be in it right now.
Yeah.
Like I would say shit like that, and then I get a laugh line. But my joke that got the most laughs was because we were in Villanova, which is pretty far away from here. I was like, first of all, I want to thank William for making the wedding here. The original destination for the wedding was Zimbabwe, but I talked him out of it, so that got a good laugh. But yeah, that's the wedding story. Now the bachelor party story is probably even more disastrous. So most of it was fun. There was like a few days. We went to Long Island. We got a place, and there was like a pool there. We played cards. One day we went golfing, which was a lot of fun. But then one day we went fishing. Now, when I was a kid, my dad used to have a little boat that we would go fishing on the Long Island Sound.
Well, he was an outdoorsman, right?
Yeah, he was.
You had deer on your wall, and
yeah, he did. In the basement, he had deers and stuff, and he kind of grew up with a farmhouse in upstate New York where they would go and fish and hunt and stuff.
So you had a little boat.
So yeah, when I was a kid, he would take us fishing, and I was always fine fishing. Like, we would get bluefish and striped bass and everything, and I actually enjoyed it. It was fun when I was a kid. And then I went on, like, one trip or two trips recently. Recently, I mean, like, within the last 5 years in Montauk, and it was okay. It was fun, but, like, I don't know. I kind of started feeling like, I'm not really into this anymore, Yeah. Like, it was fun when I was a kid, but then the whole process, it was kind of like the ski story, how it's like you got to go through so much shit for not that much of a payoff.
You got to, like, take a tackle box out and shit,
Well,
right?
no, when you go to Montauk, you have to, like, charter a boat, so, like, you pay somebody to bring you out, and they do everything, and you're just along for the ride, essentially. But it takes a while to drive out to Montauk.
Yeah.
And then, it's a long boat ride out to the spot where you have to fish.
No, but you don't just bring your pole out there. Like, you got to set shit. No, but you got to, like, set shit up with
they
your
do
pole.
it.
They do everything?
Oh, yeah. They have a first mate that does all that stuff. If you do a charter boat. Yeah. When I used to go with my dad when I was a kid, we would have to do it. And this is crazy that when I was a kid, I actually got my boater's license when I was like 12 or some shit.
Really?
Like, I went and took a course, and I had a license to be a captain of a boat.
That's what's up.
Yeah, it was kind of cool, except I never fucking used it, and I still don't care. I mean,
so
I
wait,
wouldn't use it now.
That still
I don't know how long it's valid for. I have no idea. Maybe it is valid till today. I don't know. I have no idea. But so it was fun when I was a kid, and then again I went to Montauk a few times. It was okay, but I was like kind of falling out of love with it. So by the time the bachelor party happened, which was recently, I had gotten to the point where I knew I didn't like it anymore. Like, I had made a full transition at some point where I'm just like, I don't like fishing anymore, right? And I actually got to the point where I was like, just thinking about it, I was kind of not scared of it, but like, I really didn't like it to the point where it's like I actively don't want to go. You know what I mean? It's one of those things.
Yeah.
So we end up, I sucked it up and I went because it's one of my best friends. He's getting married, yada, yada, yada. So we wake up on that day, and I already felt like on the day when we have to wake up super early to go fishing, which I already fucking hate. But like when I woke up, I already didn't feel right about the day. I'm like, this is like, it doesn't. I just want to kind of lay here and just watch TV. Like, I don't want to do this. But we go, and so we get on the boat. Okay, I shit you not. When we get on the boat in the fucking whatever it's called, the harbor, the dock, whatever, like, it was kind of like a rainy day a little bit. And you already felt it moving. in a bad way. Like, I've been on boats. I know that that's really not the way it's supposed to feel right when you get on the boat. Like, you're supposed to just be whatever.
Yeah.
But it was already a little bit choppy, right?
Yeah, I don't like that.
So then we start moving out. And like 3 minutes into it, I'm like, oh boy. Because the sea is choppy.
Yeah.
And like the boat is just big time back, forth, back, forth.
With like a medium-sized boat or something like that?
Yeah, with like a medium-sized boat. I don't know how many feet it was, 25
Yeah.
feet or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Maybe 30 or something like that. But anyway, so it's back, forth. And I'm like, okay, you're good. Like, you're good. Don't worry about it. Like, you've been fishing how many times before? There's all these people around you. Like, whatever. Like, you're good money. Like, 30 minutes into the trip, I'm sitting down. I'm like, number one, I don't want to even fish. Like, they could fish, cool, whatever. But I have no interest in getting up and, like, reeling something in and exerting myself when I'm already not feeling great.
Yeah.
Then, like, an hour into it, I'm laying down. And I'm thinking to myself, like, don't focus on the fucking thing.
Still rocking.
Because it's rocking crazy now. Because the further out you go, the more it rocks.
Everyone else is good money with it?
Everyone else is good because it wasn't... I mean, if you listen to the captain, and I believe the captain because she did it for a living, she was like, no, it's... This isn't bad. Like, this is right on the borderline before it would be considered bad, but it's not bad. Like, this is not... Because it was like a drizzly day. It wasn't a hard rain. Wasn't that much wind out there, but it was the sea was just rocking, right? Mm-hmm. So anyway, long story short, I'm out there. There were like 3 or 4 different occasions where I had to stop myself from throwing up. You know how you get that feeling when like your mouth fills with saliva and you're like, this is it, it's happening, right? It's on.
Just like that. Yeah.
3 or 4 times I got that.
Oh.
And I held off as long as I could, and it was like we were out there for like 3 or 4 hours or so, and I just looked at the guys. I'm like, look, man, we got to go in. I told him, I was like, look, we got to go in. And I remember we had debated long before, like months before when we were planning the trip, should we do a half day or should we do a full day? And should we go for like shark, deep sea, something like that? Or should we go for, bluefish and striper? I was pushing so hard for bluefish and striper and half day, not a full day. I was able to sell them on bluefish and striper. I wasn't able to sell them on a half day. So we ended up doing full day. But they were really nice because they were like, they saw it in my face. They're like, we're like literally torturing him by staying out here.
Fucking green emoji.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And we were already out there for like 3 or 4 hours, so they kind of were like, it's cool, man. It's cool. But you know what? One of the most amazing part of the story? When we got back, the second I stepped off the boat, immediately was better. Like, it was, you want to talk about seasickness? It was just legit seasickness. The second I was off the boat, 100%. I was back to... If you said, let's go play basketball, I would have been like, okay, we could go play basketball.
Were you drinking waters and stuff or anything?
I don't remember what I ate during the day.
It's crazy. That's weird.
And look, I've never gotten seasick before. I've been fishing so many times. I've been fishing over 25 times in my life. I've never gotten seasick.
Psychological shit, like when you knew you woke up that day, because you said you knew it was just not feeling like the right type of day.
Yeah, but I don't think it was pure psychological. I really think it was.
Like you psyched yourself into it, not being like...
No, I don't think it was my brain because I know how much it was rocking. Like I know how much the boat was rocking. And for whatever reason, my mind just needed... Like, it needed the ability. Yeah, it needed the stability. Like, you're on ground. You're not... Like, I mean, think about it. When there's literally not an option, and all you're doing is going kind of violently back and forth, like, it almost seems to me like the natural reaction should be, like, everybody going, whoa, I don't like this. This is like, I'm instantly getting sick, you know?
It's like flying in, like, turbulence and shit. Like, the plane could be fucking
that leads to my next point,
crazy.
man. It's great. It's awesome that you mentioned that.
You land, get off, and you're on ground.
That leads directly to my next point. So, now I have a full-blown, legit fear of boats.
Really?
I made a decision now. I'm never going to go fishing again because I just don't like it. Like, freshwater's fine. I'll go freshwater fishing. Because freshwater's totally different. I mean, it's like a docile lake or pond.
See, I've never been fishing. I don't have any urge to go fishing.
You're not missing out on much.
Yeah.
It's really not much. But so I would do freshwater still, but I wouldn't go out in saltwater.
Would
anymore.
you like actively seek to go like freshwater?
No,
like
I wouldn't actively seek, but if I was asked and it was easy and I wanted to, I'd be like, yeah, whatever, fuck it. But I'm not doing saltwater anymore. Ever.
Yeah.
I'll be happy if I die and never fish again in that way. But I have a fear of boats now, and I also have a fear of flying.
Fear of flying too?
Yeah. And so now let me tell this story. So when I was a kid, like I've been on planes many times. Like we used to go almost every year to Florida when I was a kid. We'd go to Disneyland. and never had an issue. Like I didn't like look forward to it. Yay, we get to sit on a plane. But when I was on it, I was just like, whatever, I'm on a plane. Who cares? And the most recent time I went on a plane was the Vegas trip. And I got to understand, I had been on planes probably 18 times or so in my life. Oddly enough, I don't think not once did I experience turbulence the entire time.
Really?
I never had it. Like, and I guess that's like statistically rare, right? Because I guess
I feel like there's always at least a little bit on takeoff or landing.
There you go, right? And I think a lot of people have had that experience.
Yeah,
like,
course.
I don't know. Well, I guess I just had the fucking best pilots ever the first few times.
Yeah.
Either that or I wasn't perceptive enough as a kid to like feel the turbulence or something like that. I don't know. I don't know what it was, but I distinctly remember every flight I've ever been on being like super smooth. It was just like, boom, all right, we're there, done, right? For Vegas, on the flight back. And I forget, we had like a connecting flight. I forget how it went. It went from like Vegas to some weird place, like Phoenix, which is kind of out of the way, and then it went to New York. Yeah. Something weird like that. So on the first flight from Vegas to wherever it was, I think it was Phoenix, we had so much turbulence. And remember, I had been on planes a bunch of times. I never experienced turbulence, so I really don't know what it is. Like, I've heard people talk about it, but I've never been in it, so I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And I start thinking, oh my God, this fucking plane's going to crash. Because if you've never felt it before, like, it's understandable that somebody could think that that's what turbulence is.
Your plane is just like bugging out, shaking.
And also, did you experience with the turbulence that, like, it's not just shaking, it's like you feel the plane legit like drop and lose, like, lose the ability to just propel forward. Like, it drops in air and then it moves, and it drops and it goes back up. But like you feel the drop, like you drop probably like 100 feet in that split second. It's just like your plane's like it's kind of sputtering along. I felt that, and I'm looking at other people. I'm like, is everybody else feeling this? Because apparently they've all experienced turbulence, so they're just like they're sitting there reading and shit. Right? Yeah. But I never experienced. So I'm looking around like this isn't normal, right? Yeah. Like, is there something wrong with the engine? Like, is there? And then you start thinking about, well, look at how these fucking things are made. Like, if one screw is off or one wire is out of place or the landing gear glitches a little bit, like, if anything
like the
happens,
power goes out or some shit.
Anything. There's so many things. There's to build a plane. It's a fucking magnificent.
Or even on top of that, it's just like, what if your captain is having a bad day and it's just like,
what if the person who's supposed to check the plane to make sure everything's right had a bad day?
Yeah.
Wife wants a divorce from him. He's not, all the screws are going to be on right. Everything's going to, yeah, I know. So I started thinking about all that. I'm like, oh, this is terrible. And so it worked out fine, but there was a point where I legit thought like we're going down.
Yeah, that shit happens.
And I thought like if we're going down, I looked at I think there was some businesswoman sitting next to me. I'm like, I'm fucking hugging her and not letting go if this shit start going. Nah, I couldn't. I was not horny, but I would hug her and be like, I love you, even though I don't know you. But I felt like I was scared, man. I was legit scared.
Oh, it's scared. Like I'm scared of, like, not scared of flying, but when I'm on the plane, I'm like a little like on tilt. Like I'm like,
yeah, because it's not normal.
It's just like I'm this high up in the air.
That's it, man. You're right.
But then I spoke to my dad. He was in the Air Force. He was actually I think he was he worked in the planes. I don't think he was an actual pilot.
And it's statistically safer flying.
Yeah, and he once told me like when the plane is actually in the air, that like there's no chance of it actually crashing because it's like on autopilot.
The issue?
He said the only two times where a plane like can go down is on takeoff and landing, because that's when the pilot actually has control.
And
like,
the
statistics
also are kind of overwhelming. That it's way safer than driving.
If it's just like my brother was on a flight one time that like it took off and it had to make like an emergency landing in Orlando or something. He was taking off from Miami, and he was like, I was like, yo, that must have been the scariest shit ever. He was like, yeah, it was pretty scary, but it just like it happened so fast that like we went up and then like we just had to land because they said it was an emergency or something. Like, it's scary. Oh my god! Like, it's weird. Like,
they say like sometimes another way that planes crash though is like if they're on their course, which is autopilot, but like the cloud cover is bad where they are, and they ask to rise above the clouds so that they could fly. That if they ascend too fast, then it's like.
I heard the new thing now too is like the birds get into the
that's possible too. Isn't that how the guy who landed on the Hudson? I think that.
Yeah, there might have been birds. Yeah, and then recently,
and
I think
that's
there was
crazy when you think about it. That's crazy that like that's an issue that like all it needs is a bird. All it takes is a bird. There's
you look at those things on like supermarket chains. They have those little like peck things that like no birds like hang out on the signs. You know what I'm talking about or no?
No.
Like on billboards, they have those little like prickly like shit on top of like pathmark sign or something, so birds don't hang out on it. Whatever.
And you're saying put them on a plane? Is that
just,
what you're
like, they should like you would think they're just
you
common
would think
sense
they come up with something to
that,
find
like,
a way
a
to
bird,
not right.
Have
a bird guard or some shit.
Like you built a fucking thing that flies in the air. You can't figure out something for the wing that like a bird can't, like a group of birds can't fucking.
And look, when it really boils down to it, and this is why I'm scared of flying, is that think about what you're doing. Like people, we just act in life like everything is normal, but think about what the fuck you're doing in a plane.
Oh, Louis C.K. has the best skit on that shit.
You're in a metal box, going 800 miles an hour. You're thousands of feet off the ground.
Yeah.
If anything goes wrong, like you're dead.
Yeah.
You know, like the scariest, probably the worst way to die is in a plane crash when you know you're going down.
Yeah.
Because it's like that entire 2 minutes or whatever the fuck it takes is like, I'm going to die, 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 I'm going to die. And it's not that you just feel the fucking violent.
Yeah, they think that like fucking shit they tell you in the beginning, like put the mask
that doesn't
on.
do
like,
dick.
While your plane is going down, you're bugging the fuck out. You're not worrying about putting a little yellow mask over your mouth.
I wonder if it's an urban legend that the mask, I've heard that the mask, I think this was in Fight Club.
Saves your life.
I don't know if it's true. It just makes you high so that you don't care that you die.
Really?
That was in Fight Club. That's the only place I heard it. So it might be just some fake movie shit.
Have to go watch Louis C.K.'s bit on this.
Planes?
Yeah, he's just like, he'll be like in the air, whatever it is, 30,000 feet in the air, and like a lady next to him will be like complaining about like a bag of chips or some shit, and like he'll just want to turn to her. And
I'm
be
sorry.
Like, he'll just be like, hey, like fuck face, you're flying. You're actually in the air right now, flying. Like, who gives a fuck about whatever you're worrying about? You're in the fucking air right now.
He's probably the best comedian right now out there.
He's so funny.
Think. Yeah,
he's like the way he thinks about things and how his brain works is incredible.
I think he's great because the way he thinks about things is kind of like the shit we all think but we don't say.
Yeah.
Like tapping into something that he's you when you wake up in the morning and you're kind of cranky.
Mm-hmm.
Except he's like that all day.
Yeah.
And he can talk about it in a very clear way.
Yeah, he's
stuff
awesome.
that he feels and thinks. All right, so I'm scared of flying. I'm scared of boats. I cried like a bitch while I was giving a best man speech, and I got violently sick when we were fishing. So since I'm a miserable failure, now let me talk about this because right before you came, I was watching a romantic comedy. Speaking of, we were talking about like crying and stuff in movies before.
Uh-huh.
I did not cry for this movie. And a lot of romantic comedies, I don't end up crying.
Mm-hmm.
There are movies that I cry in, but romantic comedies, no. And I've concluded that romantic comedies really are, like, there is something to this idea that romantic comedies fuck up other people's relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Because they portray everything as perfect.
Yeah.
Like, they always have the perfect story where it's like, guy meets girl, everything's perfect,
another guy
it's perfect for a while, and then some shit goes bad some way. And then somehow it ends up working out.
Perfect. Like the
perfect
best
ending.
fucking perfect ending.
Right. And don't you think that makes people like, well, I don't know.
It makes guys like, fuck that movie. It makes girls like, why don't I have a boyfriend like that?
But then again, like at the same time, I think it probably is different for romantic comedies. But I know when it comes to like violent video games and violent movies, that doesn't make people violent. You know what I mean?
I don't know.
Like there's studies on that. We know that there's no connection.
Oh, really?
Like yeah, like I've played Rainbow Six. I've played games and stuff that involve killing, and I never ever wanted to hurt anybody in real life.
Yeah.
And the statistics show that doesn't really happen with other people either. I mean, if somebody ends up being a killer, like Aaron Alexis, the guy who shot up the government building a while ago, he did play a lot of those video games and stuff. But
there might not be a connection, but you like
there was no connection.
Knowledge
he was a
about it or some shit.
He had like serious mental problems.
Yeah, they're all fucked up probably, but like there's got to be some knowledge. Like you learn more about guns and shit. Like these kids coming in middle school know about all these crazy guns from Halo and fucking.
Yeah, but I don't see how the knowledge of it leads to people doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
it's like saying I know about crystal meth, but that doesn't mean I'm going to do it. You know?
Yeah. True.
And again, for that, we kind of know that there's no connection. The studies have shown that there's no, like even the U.S. Supreme Court heard a case where they basically said there's no evidence that this thing is connected. Australia, their government compiled studies and found out that there's no connection.
There's proof to back
but is it different for romantic comedies? I think it might be. I think romantic comedies might have a bigger effect on people. And not just women, I think guys too.
Really?
Yeah, I think that everybody...
thinking they have to, like, play that role or... Like,
yeah, I think that it's just, like, it just kind of... Because there's really no manual on how to be a good boyfriend, how to be a good girlfriend, how to be a good... You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, when it comes to combat, like, violence and stuff, like... Most people are just never engaged in violence. So it's just something that you watch and it's pure entertainment. But most people at some point are engaged in a relationship or they end up getting married or something. So, like, you have to learn from somewhere. And some people kind of naturally learn from their parents, I guess. And some people learn from pop culture. And some people learn from, like, movies like that and shit.
Yeah, but I think it goes also to, like, what type of person you are. So, if like, for me, I don't know, I'm not the girl in the relationship, but any gift I get, I'm happy with. So I can get like a fucking bag of shit, but if it says like I love you on it or something, I'm happy that you thought of giving me something. Whereas I heard a story of a lady when I was working at an ice cream store, and still am. It was like a ritzy area. She came in and was telling me the story about how when her husband proposed to her or some shit, and she was like, he picked me up. And the car was full of like roses or something, and like the ring was in there or some shit. Or she wasn't telling me; she was telling the girls she was with. She was with a group of like her girlfriends. And then after, she was just like, and I was like, "That was it." So like,
no,
yeah, like on some shit. Like the guy went out of his way and made like the ultimate like movie, like beautiful thing. But she was such like a prissy fucking bitch that like. She didn't appreciate it.
That's a disastrous human being right
So
there.
maybe she watched too many of like romantic comedies or something, but like I think it also goes to what type of person you are that like
yeah. But I mean, I don't know. It just strikes me. Yeah, it strikes me that it seems like a lot of people I've met in my life, that's their whole like outlook on things relationship wise.
Is to live like a perfect movie like
life.
and
and like they kind of define themselves by that, like people who feel fulfilled, it seems like they have stuff they like outside of a relationship, Like you can't just rely on a relationship for your happiness. That seems like
no, of course not. You gotta have hobbies and shit.
But looking at movies like that, it's like they kind of portray it as the end all be all, It's like, here, this is your goal. Your goal is to like get married. But the thing that's so frustrating is that you never, obviously these things are movies, but even in the fictional tale, you never see what happens after the awesome ending where they kiss under the stars. Like you don't realize the shit that happens afterwards.
Like she's fucking someone else on the side to like, or something.
Right. They live with each other and they know all each other's gross habits, and it's like, it's not.
Well, that takes a bigger picture that like you always talk about and say is just like when you ask the question, it's just like why do people get married? It's just like, like, are you getting married just because everyone else is getting married?
Yeah.
Are you having a kid because that's the next step of marriage? Like,
that's a big issue, man. Like this thing of
like that's just bigger picture. It's just
this thing of just following the fucking format that everybody laid out already.
Yeah,
that's a huge issue that I don't think very many people catch on to, which is kind of sad. Like I was watching. There was a movie I was watching earlier. What was it? Oh, it was the end. I saw the end of Ali. The end of, and I've seen it before, but I was on and I turned it on again real quick. And after Ali ended, there was some show. I don't know what channel it was on. TV One or some shit, I think it's. And it's got to be a new one or some shit. Is it?
I think it's like a new local station.
Okay, because it was like weird white girls on after it.
Oh,
but
really?
Anyway, like the white girls were like 35-ish, right? And they were sitting on a stoop. It was like called Talk Stoop or something.
Oh, I know that. Yeah.
Oh, you've heard of it?
I know Talk Stoop. Yeah, they sometimes get a celebrity on there and
and so they're sitting there talking, and like they're sitting on the stoop as if to portray like, oh, whatever, we're just hanging out on the stoop. But like she's dressed perfectly in like this super expensive dress. And get this, she's sipping coffee, but in such a manufactured way, like now it's my turn to sip coffee. Is the camera catching me doing this? And she's holding a little dog. Like, the thing that a lot of girls do where they buy like the little dogs and they carry them around?
That was like the original Paris Hilton move.
As I was watching this, I just was overcome with hatred for this woman. I'm like, fuck you. Like, you're just trying to fill the role of what you think is like the popular girl.
Like, no one has ever done that on their stoop since like... you really want to know what goes on a stoop? People get some dice and rolling dice on the stoop. They're,
smoke weed and relax.
Yeah, selling drugs, whatever. No one's sitting on the stoop
But the whole thing was so fake in that it was like she was trying to be a character as opposed to being herself. And it just struck me as so disingenuous. Mm-hmm. And I look, and I'm, I probably thought too deep into it, but as I'm watching it, I'm like, what kind of a fucking life does she have? Like, what is she doing? Like, what's she spending her time doing? Is she happy? I doubt. I mean, can you be happy when you're just doing this? Okay, here's the mold I have to follow. It seems like such a fucking shut your eyes and move through life and run towards that grave when you're 85. Like, why not pick some shit that you really like and say fuck what anybody else thinks,
Yeah.
Like, so much more respect for people who try some weird shit and then they love it,
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. You have more respect for people that just go through life doing shit that they actually like, as opposed to you looking at them and be like, no, she's just getting married because she's like 26 and like she's like she feels she has to do that, or like
that happens a lot with a lot of people. They just go with the next step. This is what I'm supposed to do. This is what I'm supposed to do. This is what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah,
it's a big issue. All right, so now I'm gonna skirt. That's a skirting noise. Make a hard left here. All right, I want to play this clip for you, Cor, and get your reaction to it because it's weird. I want to see if you thought it was weird too. Okay. It's this is William F. Buckley, who is an old conservative commentator. He's dead now, but he was like this big time conservative commentator. And I stumbled across this clip the other night. This is him talking about death.
Oh, it's already scary.
And it just struck me as weird. So listen to this.
Do you wish you were 20?
No, absolutely not. No, I would. If I had a pill which would reduce my age by 25 years, I wouldn't take it.
Why not?
Because I'm tired of life.
Are you really?
Yeah. I really am. I'm utterly prepared to stop living on. There are no enticements to me that justify the weariness, the repetition, my hours exercise.
Isn't that weird?
That's a little weird.
Like, when I saw that, I was like, do like a lot of older people feel that at a certain point?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I mean,
because I thought that seemed extreme, right?
I think that's a little extreme. Like, maybe he's just a dude that has nothing to like live for. Maybe he doesn't keep in touch with his family or something. Like, I feel like old people
somebody probably passed away recently or something.
Yeah, old people find like reasons to keep going on, whether it's like grandchildren, fucking bingo.
See, that's what I thought when I was watching. I'm like, something's like, there's something off with that, and like, I thought, Jesus, I hope I'm never in that place, man, because
it's almost. I mean, like you watch that. And you don't think that it's like, it seems like suicidal type of thing, because you don't watch that and you think this guy's going to kill himself.
Yeah.
But
then
he
goes on to say that too. He's like, I would never kill myself.
Yeah.
But it's like, you're almost there.
Yeah.
Like
but if you
not that you do it, but you're like, I don't care about this life.
Yeah. You dissect like what we're doing now and think about what he's saying, and it's like, what he's saying is suicidal. Like, what's his motivation to wake up tomorrow if he's having a conversation right now, like, talking about I have no more reason to live, like.
And I also think like there's so much stuff in the world though too.
Yeah.
Like I'm so overwhelmed by how much stuff there is. If I wanted to try to read as many books as I can before I die, I'd only get to like, I don't know, a few thousand.
Yeah.
And there's millions of books. It seems to me, and this is not to blame him because I'm sure something deeper is going on.
Who is this guy?
He's a conservative commentator. He used to have a TV show.
I feel like a guy that smart can realize that he could find something to do.
But that also leads into, I'm going to be kind of a dick here, but that makes me think that it's kind of an arrogant thing to say and believe, because it's almost presumptuous. Like, what? You think nothing in this world can entertain you anymore? You think nothing is worth learning about? Do you think you know everything? Like, there's so much to learn. There's so much to do. And to just say, I'm tired of living.
It sounds like a cop-out.
Yeah, and it kind of makes me wonder, okay, so when you had your show, at what point, it seems like his mind is made up. Like, I made up like 10 years ago, I no longer want to live. it's almost like you put a roadblock up in your mind. What else did you put a roadblock up for? For learning about shit and listening to new opinions and having new beliefs around you and new people around you? It almost seems to me it's just dark. I mean, that's the word to describe it. It's dark, and he seems very nonchalant about it, very casual about it. But it's like, I can easily imagine some older person, doing an interview and being like, no, I love it. Like Larry King, this is a great example. It just popped into my head right now. Larry King did an interview. He did one with Cenk. I don't know if he did this in the interview with Cenk, but I heard him say it somewhere that he's like, I don't want to die. Like every day I want to keep going. I want to keep doing what I'm doing. He obviously had his CNN show forever. Excuse me. Now he does a show, like an online show or something. And he's just obsessed with it. He's like, it's my thing. Like, he realized, when he left CNN, he realized, like, oh, no, that was my calling, and I love doing it. And he's, like, excited about it and invigorated. And it's almost like you have to, like, hit the reset button and map things out in a new way if you're somebody in that situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
and I know it's harder for an older person to do that. And I also know it's a different story for people who are clinically depressed. So that's the massive caveat to this entire conversation.
Could be clinically depressed, that dude.
Yeah, maybe he is. And if that's the case, then look, the thing number one is seek medical attention and get on meds, because it's not sufficient to tell somebody who's legit clinically depressed, like, hey, snap out of it, because that's irrelevant.
Yeah.
Like, obviously they're trying to and they just can't. So if that's the case for him, dude, he's dead now, but like, you seek help, go through the proper channels. And look, I don't begrudge you feeling any way if you're clinically depressed, because it's beyond your control. So I understand that, and that's the massive caveat here. But also, I'm saying if that's not the case, if you're just kind of in a funk, but you're not clinically depressed, you hit the reset button and just remap everything and say, look, I know it's going to feel shitty when I try new things for the first week, but then once it catches on, like for me, like I at one point I wanted to be a professional golfer, and when I was a kid I was never really into it, but my dad was into it, and my dad kind of brought me and introduced me to it. And after like a year of hitting golf balls at the range, you get bitten by the bug, and you're like, oh, this is awesome. And like all you want to do is play golf. And I feel like that same effect can happen with a whole bunch of different things. You know what I mean? Like,
what? But with death?
No.
I'm saying, like, if you realize that,
for
like,
anybody, whether they're young or old, if they're in a funk, and what I'm saying is he seems like he's in a funk, and to have
so you're saying you can get into a funk with death?
No, I'm saying to avoid the feeling of wanting to...
if he, like, picks something up.
To avoid that feeling of wanting to... that he has, where he's like... And again, a massive caveat, if he's clinically depressed, that's a different issue. He needs to seek help first. But I'm saying if you're just somebody in a funk, if you hit the reset button and you try new things, eventually you're going to stumble across something that you get passionate about. Because humans are human. Like, we think... you might think like, oh, I'm above it all. Like, I won't like any of that stuff because that's so like blasé or plebeian or whatever. I don't know. But it's not. Like, you might really fucking like ping pong. You might really fucking like pool. You might really like weightlifting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You might really like that new book that you read and fucking share it with other people and fucking end up going to a book club or some shit. You might really like diving and you join a diving team, or you like swimming and you join a swim team. You like fucking indoor soccer and you want to join a league. Like, all that shit becomes some shit that ends up defining you and makes you happier.
Yeah, it's like the movie with Jim Carrey, Yes Man.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to say yes to everything.
He says yes to everything, but like, he turns out like he finds the girl that he loves, and like, and he just has an awesome time doing everything. He says yes to everything. That's what happens in the movie.
Yeah, I remember I saw the movie probably like 3-4 years ago. Yeah. But yeah, it's sad. I get sad when I hear shit like what he said.
Yeah, I mean, like, how can you not? It's just like, I mean, death. Thinking about that in general sometimes is just a scary thought, But like,
I think
everyone's got to be afraid of death. I mean, unless you like, I don't know, unless you come to the realization where you're not scared of it anymore.
I mean, yeah, I guess you're right that there's got to be some people who totally aren't afraid of it. Some people who are a little bit afraid of it. Some people who are a lot afraid of it. There's probably a spectrum, of people who feel all different types of ways.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something that, I mean, that's one of the main reasons why I think religion is super successful, is that I think Sam Harris put it best. He said, the problem is that non-religious people and atheists, you don't have anything to say when you're consoling somebody next to the casket of a loved one that died. Like, we can't say, it's cool, you're like, when you die,
no, they're in a
you're
better
going
place.
to meet up with them, and then you're going to be in clouds together. And like this, that makes people go, oh, thank you. Like, it gives them a little bit of relief, even though it's not true.
Yeah, don't worry, your grandfather is with your grandmother.
And atheists don't have shit to say.
Yeah.
But like, I've always argued, again, and it's true, we don't have anything, like, you guys, everybody knows what I think it happens when we die. If I had to guess, I don't know, because nobody knows, but if I had to guess, it's like before we were born.
Yeah, it's just nothingness.
Right, nothingness. And is that scary? I mean, I guess it is, because we have this, like, ego that, and the ego kind of wants everybody to love you and wants everybody to know you, and, 300 years from now.
It just goes on forever of nothingness. Like, it sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it does, because the only perspective we have is the perspective of our little fucking meat machine that we walk around with, where we're just this little ego in this materialistic world. So all we know is what we are.
Yeah.
So we want it to perpetuate.
Yeah.
But I've always argued that one has to come to the realization that, yeah, that's likely the case, and then live this life in as meaningful a way as possible,
That's true.
Because this is people can speculate about what happens after we die, and they can make shit up, but nobody knows. But we do know we're here right now, Like, we do know that this is something.
Mm-hmm.
There's something going on here, So why not I always argue, try to make this life as close to heaven on earth as you possibly can. Try to make this life as meaningful and happy as you possibly can. And that's a hard thing.
Deep, though.
That's a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow, though. And I understand, because a lot of people are in such shitty financial situations, or they have health problems, and there's all this shit that just piles up and piles up and piles up. But I still think the point stands, is that, number one, we should live in a society where we try to mitigate the effects of poverty and mitigate the effects of illness. We should, you guys know what I believe about that, have social safety nets, have universal health care and stuff, and just try to foster an environment where individuals can really thrive and create their own happiness on this earth.
Mm-hmm.
All right, this is what I wanted to talk about last week. We didn't get around to it.
Mm-hmm.
There are two things that were at one point considered science, but they weren't science, and they were so disastrous that I wanted to talk about them. One is called eugenics. Another one is called phrenology. And what they are is basically scientific racism. But it's like, it's not real science, it's junk science. But it's like phrenology, for example, is, and it's so stunning how made up it is. Like, there was a guy who came up with this idea that they would wall off parts of your mind, like make compartments in your mind. Like, if they draw your brain on a piece of paper, right?
Mm-hmm.
They'd be like, this part of your brain is about hunger. This part of your brain is about love. This part of your brain is about work ethic. And they would just draw it off. But they just made up all the places where it goes. And they pretended like it was real, like it was science. Like, no, it's true that you could judge the character of somebody and how faithful they'll be if you look at the bottom part of their skull.
But I mean, I learned in psychology that there are different parts of the brain that, like,
for sure,
shit goes on in different parts of the brain.
But I'm talking about a time when they didn't know what they were, and they just made it up. Like, it is true that certain parts of your brain are more there's your hippocampus, there's your prefrontal cortex, and they all this part handles emotion, this part handles logic or whatever. And we know that because you could put a brain scan on somebody and see where there's activity when they do certain actions. Mm-hmm. So we figured out a way to actually measure it. Back then, they didn't have a way.
Yeah.
So it was just some douchebag who came along, and he's like, this is my idea. This part of your brain does this part of your brain does that. And they would literally measure people's skulls and the backs of their heads and stuff, and they'd say, oh, because of the shape of your head, you're likely not going to be faithful. So it was so insanely made up, but people bought into it for decades, to the point where that was one of the reasons why they continued slavery. They used that as a backing for it. They're like, no, because of the shape of the heads of black people, they're more likely to not be hard workers, and they're inferior to white people. So now we have a reason to keep them down. And
That's
also
terrible.
in the movie Django Unchained. Oh wait, which one was Leonardo DiCaprio was in?
That was Django.
That was Django or 12 Years?
No, Django.
Django.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
It was in Django Unchained. Leonardo DiCaprio's character screams about phrenology.
Really?
At the end of it, when I forget exactly how it goes, but like he finds out what Jamie Foxx is planning, and then he screams about. He flips out on them and he starts talking about how the science of phrenology. He takes out this big fucking head. He's like, this part of the brain on.
Oh, I remember
exactly.
that.
And he was talking about that. It's a fake science that people thought was real,
Wow.
and they use that to justify racism and justify all these horrible things. And then eugenics is probably even worse because that came along later. So there was the theory of evolution in Darwin, which is true, right? And then somebody who's like a distant relative, I think, of Charles Darwin came up with this idea of eugenics, which is he thought he was continuing Darwin's work and making it like, oh, I'm adding on to it and I'm being scientific too. Oh. But what he really did was he just tried to categorize humans as superior and inferior based on genetics and your looks. And unfortunately, this is one of the things that was used to justify
So a better looking person is
Adolf
smarter
Hitler
or
and the
some
Nazis.
shit? Oh, yeah.
They said...
Oh, Hitler used that with
Hitler used this as one of his justifications, where they said they would call it the Aryan race, which, by the way, historians say that never existed, but Hitler bought into German mythology, which said that there were blonde-haired, blue-eyed Germans that like ruled the world at one point.
Meanwhile, he's got fucking brown hair.
Yeah, he's not even an Aryan, and he'd have to die according to his own plan. But so what they would do is they'd measure people's noses and measure people's heads, and they'd say, oh, you're of an inferior breed, so you need to die. And look, the thing that's so amazing about it is how made up it was, because they went under the assumption that if you look a certain way, you're just superior. As if, like, blonde-haired, blue-eyed people and tall people are better at everything.
Yeah.
Like, no, there's people who are short and brown hair who are geniuses, and they're,
Some of the, like, world's strongest men are you have to be, like, short in stature,
right?
Like,
and obviously intelligence has no correlation with
nothing.
Blue eyes, but they made it all up, and they.
Well, it goes to show how convincing they were that they got people to fucking believe that.
And that leads
shit.
to my conclusion on this: that junk science, something that's presented as science but is not science, is actually even more dangerous than religion. And religion is fucking dangerous, right? It's very dangerous. But I think that's worse because it gives people who are otherwise smart false certitude on a topic.
Well, that's like when Bill Nye. What did Bill Nye debate somebody on? Like creationism.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So the fact that the other guy who was debating like thought it was like everything was from the Bible or some shit. Mm-hmm. The fact that Bill Nye even debated this guy brings validity to and like credibility to that guy.
Presents it like it's a 50-50 thing.
Like,
it's like, pick your side. They're both legitimate.
Yeah,
right.
So
and
whereas
not.
like Bill Nye is like fucking genius, shouldn't even like have.
Yeah,
it's
debate. like somebody, an evolutionist debating a eugenicist today, which doesn't make sense because we know eugenics is wrong. Mm-hmm. We know that's incorrect, but we know evolution is true. That's the. I think junk science, something that's presented as science but isn't science, is one of the most dangerous things there is because it's always used. You could always try to use science for bad if you try to make it seem like try to categorize humans into this superior and inferior.
Well, you can always get
mold.
like some dumb scientists. Like there's scientists. There's actual scientists out there who say that there's not global warming happening.
Right, and there's scientists out there. Right, that's right. They get paid by ExxonMobil and Chevron, and they just sell out.
But they have the degree, and they have credentials of being a scientist.
And again, that's super dangerous because they've made it a debate now, and then we drag our feet on doing any legislation to address climate change. All they need to do to win is have a debate, because
they've won.
In order for us to win, we need to do something. We need to do policies and implement this stuff. So they win every time they just continue the debate, which is what they've been doing.
Yeah. So,
and all their money, is back channels, oil companies, and natural gas companies and shit.
So Hitler and all that just backed themselves with just fake science.
Hitler and there's like
believe.
The right wing. There was this big right wing scientific racism movement, which was like this idea that no, it's good that we keep black people down because they're inferior. It's good that we keep Jews down because they're inferior. It's good. It's just. It's the natural order of things. And we have this science to back it up. But the science was fake. Again, the thing that's just so stunning to me is not even that it is made up. It's how poorly it was made up. Like, I've met people who are of all different races, religions, ethnicities, who are smart and dumb in each one. This idea that, like, you can measure it and say, no, these guys are good, all these guys are bad. It's like, no, people are individuals, dipshit.
Yeah.
You know, like, to try to make it scientific to back up your bigotry. But it was used, man. Phrenology, historically speaking, these were all recent things. Like, phrenology, 1800s, I think. Eugenics obviously was used up 1940s, probably still into the 1950s. There's still fucking probably right-wing douchebags today who are neo-Nazis and shit who probably still believe in it to a certain extent. Believe in scientific racism. Yeah, it's crazy.
Scary and crazy.
Yeah, it is.
It's more so scary.
Yeah, it's just, I think junk science could be more dangerous than religion. Because it makes otherwise smart people fall into the trap. Mm-hmm. Whereas with religion, you kind of already need to be predisposed to being duped over, you know?
Yeah.
So, all right, guys. That'll about do it. Kyle and Corin, love you to death. I'd make out with you through the microphone if I could. Corin, thanks for hanging in there like a champ. You were
no doubt, man.
Remember, man, this guy CrossFit yesterday. He had to do something last night, too.
Yeah.
Today he had to wake up early and go skiing. So you're tired as a motherfucker. You still... did it like a trooper.
Appreciate it, bro.
So good job, man. All right, guys. I will see you tomorrow. Peace.